I love the story in the Bible, in the book of Zechariah, where God's people return from exile to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple for the future generations. The first steps aren't easy and they need encouragement. And God speaks to them in a dramatic way, saying that He's with them and the temple will be rebuilt, and just to continue taking the next steps.
I'm the Reverend Mark Cowling, and I've worked as a young adult missioner in Manchester Diocese across Bolton and Salford Archdeaconries, helping churches to grow younger. Over the last 25 years, we have lost 70% of our young adults from our churches, and that explains why today 50% of our congregations are over retirement age. We've also got a concerning statistic about 18-year-olds when they go off to university. 75% of them stop going to church.
Well, some might argue it's okay for the Church of England to specialise in children and older adults. The Bible is clear that passing the gospel on to the next generation should be a priority for us all. And since 1 in 3 Christians attend an Anglican church in Greater Manchester, the price of neglecting young adults will be really serious for the church overall. Some would argue that growing younger is the greatest crisis that the Church of England faces today. But what are the next steps?
In Greater Manchester, we have 500,000 young adults with no kids and another 500,000 young adults with kids. It's a stage of life that sees so many changes. 80% will be getting started in the workplace, 3/4 will be dating and choosing a partner, and half of them will be having their first child. Whilst most churches would agree that growing younger is one of their top priorities, and there are some brilliant things churches can do to reach young adults, actually it's been frustrating to see that many churches find it hard to actually get going with some of those activities. What's become clear to me is that culture is deep and it eats strategy for breakfast. Peter Drucker, the social entrepreneur and expert on culture, said, "Organisations are good at knowing their customers, but not so good at knowing their non-customers." And what's more, the longer people have been part of their organisations, the stronger they feel about the way things should be done around here. Somebody once asked Facebook why they didn't change the signs on the office doors of the new office block they'd moved into. The response was given that they were left there to remind Facebook staff not to get too complacent about the future. The New Testament warns us repeatedly of the dangers of culture becoming an obstacle to the new things of God. For example, old wineskins break when they're filled with new wine. A senior leader once said to me, church leaders have to press into things that congregations tend to drift away from. So one of the foundational roles of church leaders is to manage change. We got together a group of 9 clergy to try growing younger initiatives over a 2-year period. And there are 2 things we've really appreciated. Firstly, vision. Vision is about a preferred picture of the future, of where we are today and where we want to move to. But not everybody is inclined to think about vision first. Some people are more inclined to think about understanding. That is truth that we receive from our teachers and through our pastors. Others are more passionate about making a difference through action, whether it's practical things like making tea for church members or whether it's being in society and campaigning. Others have a bias for obedience and the order that can be brought through rules and disciplines. So vision exists sometimes in tension with other priorities that people hold. We've discovered some tools that help congregations understand their culture by holding a mirror up to it. I want to reflect back to you who we are. We've got the 50s, the 60s, here the 60s babes here. For example, here we're helping our church appreciate its timeline. We're a family of people who have joined the church at different times and at different ages. Some started coming back in the 1950s, and others have just started coming this year. This visual timeline is a way of appreciating each other's journeys, helping us start conversations about what's important to us. What did you like about coming to St Michael's?
Well, it was very friendly.
And also for us to ask questions. For example, why didn't people join our church during certain periods? 1980s, we've got Bob here. This kind of activity helps us to explore who we are and where we are open to going together. 1990s, the noughties, the 2000s. Secondly, a plan. But it's typically the implementation of the plan that fails in organisations, including churches. Experts tell us that emotional intelligence is an important factor. But interestingly, the main reason for the failure of implementation is the silo culture that exists in organisations. This is especially true in churches that can often foster a very strong independence. For example, how often do messy church teams get together on a deanery level? The different parts of the body need each other. In Bolton, a positive offshoot of this thinking has been the launch of Bolton 2030. This kind of joined-up working is an example of how to improve implementation.
We want the Church of Jesus Christ in 2030 in Bolton to be living.
Here are a few examples we know can work well. Firstly, a young adult champion. Someone who can bring the needs and perspectives of young adults to the PCC for prayer and planning. Without them, the needs of young adults can drift off the agenda all too easily. And the same kind of role is needed on a chapter and a deanery level. Next is the Student Link-Up course, an app from Fusion. This increases the chances of a student joining a church when they get to university from 27% to 98%. We've trialled this course on a deanery level in Bolton, and we're very excited about being able to deliver it at a sixth form at Canon Slade later this year. Another example is the Young Adult Discipleship Trainee programme that is run at St Philip's in Salford and at Seven Saints in Bolton. This is a one-year programme that can be very low cost for the local church that enables them to have a young adult trainee working alongside them for a one-year period. It's been amazing to see when a church prays for a trainee how God has provided. And all of our 46 discipleship year trainees have given feedback that it's been one of the best years of their lives.
Did you get that?
And with about a third of university graduates in Manchester unable to find a job that matches their qualifications, we really have some great opportunities to offer young adults. And football, we are such a football-mad city, aren't we? And booking a 3G pitch is a great way to draw men out to get together on a weekly basis to play football. We found that we've been able to build really strong relationships with men. And we found this has been a really good entry point for many men starting to feel they belong to a local church. Messy Church for Young Adults with Kids has been a national success, particularly the way that it's helped older members of church get alongside younger adults and serve them in a really meaningful and profound way. And there are other styles in this spirit, such as breakfast church and cafe church, that we can press into.
So we run Messy Church on the first Saturday of every month. We started about 5 years ago. And we have lots of people from the community coming. So we have adapted as we've gone along to try and make it as appropriate as possible.
Welcome! Thank you again, everybody.
We encourage people to get involved. So a number of people who've been attending Messy Church have come on team as volunteers and really enjoyed that, sort of really felt part of the family of church, and a couple of them have made a commitment to Jesus and got baptised and also started attending Christ Church on a Sunday as well. And I think the fact that people keep coming and are inviting other people shows us that they are enjoying it and they are engaging with it. The Messy Church model has been incredibly helpful for us. Using the crafts, using the creative side to get a message across, combining it with food, combining it with celebration, has been amazing.
I've been really encouraged by many fresh expressions. In our increasingly secular nation, where church gets culturally relegated to irrelevant, new contextual missions are desperately needed that reach beyond the Sunday service. Fresh expressions are characterised by going and being incarnational. One of the most exciting that I've been involved with has been one reaching ex-offenders and complex needs men.
So my name is David Kruczek. We're with Street Soccer Academy here in Bolton. The aim of street soccer is really to bring guys together, to engage them in some way in their lives, and we do that through football, but ultimately we try to help them out in various aspects of their lives. So every week we have a session before the football where we'll look at a topic, and so we get the guys engaged with that, so asking them to speak from their personal experience.
It's my anxiety as well. I work on that a lot. Well, I'm trying to.
In the talking session, we have what we call it's called a talking stick, but it's actually a jar of hot chocolate at the moment. And so whoever's got that jar, people are expected to listen to that person. So it's just, I guess, just getting people into the discipline of thinking about other people and actually listening rather than just talking all the time.
My mum and dad said that they forgive me and that they still love me.
Partnering with Street Soccer Academy, we built some Fit for Life teams from Christians across Bolton and Salford that enabled us to extend the day together to up to 6 hours. There's been all sorts of fruitfulness that have come out of these communities, but in my view there's been two really key learning points. Firstly, people have a great hunger for pastoral care. Young adults generally are further back on their faith journey today, having grown up with no memorable input about Jesus or the Christian faith community. Yet most people are more aware of their brokenness. We developed the Fit for Life course led by Christians that helps to explore overcoming the obstacles to our well-being. Combining food and group discussions and work projects, we've seen progression and sometimes dramatic change in young adults as they have come to understand themselves and grasp the power of forgiveness, self-control, and dealing with relationships in the family and in the workplace. In these journeys, pointing to Christ has greater relevance, and coming to Christ often seems a necessity. I'm convinced that resources like the Fit for Life course are a really valuable tool for equipping all Christians with a pastoral language to help them to share their faith in their workplaces. Secondly, we need new models of financing. We're challenged by the cost of mission to our local communities, partly because the people we're reaching haven't got the means or the understanding about giving. We found business plans are a really important tool, but there's also a place for risk and prayerfully stepping out in faith. Andy Hawthorne at The Message has amazing stories of finding a few big givers. By contrast, John Kirkby at CAP has a gift of getting tens of thousands of smaller givers. And there are people like this who are good at finding money. And with the help of people like this, we've been able to find thousands of pounds of funding support through partnering with Christian and secular funders who've supported our mission projects. We've also been blessed by people who've given their time to Fresh Expressions, some of whom have reduced the days of their paid work to give more time to volunteering. And these are two really crucial ways we must resource new contextual mission. Finally, evidence from around the country suggests that growing young adult leaders is crucial to growing younger churches. It's going to take some working out, but I believe that we have to invest in the spiritual, social, and cultural leadership of young adults. Spiritual leadership is done through mentoring and teaching. Social leadership must have a cutting social justice aspect to it. And cultural leadership is about discipling our communities with shalom well-being and seeing the transformation of our places.
Greater Manchester has birthed some incredible innovations over the last 5 centuries. And the thing that's in common with those is that it was either people or teams of people who had incredible determination to solve a problem or to improve things. Growing younger is a prize worth focusing on. May we not be discouraged by how things might appear today, but be encouraged by God as we take those next steps to build a legacy in the next generation for the sake of those that will come after them.